Sometimes, all it takes is a single touch to recognize greatness. For Zinedine Zidane, no one controlled the football quite like he did. Grace under pressure, elegance in every movement. A quiet genius with a fire that could never be fully controlled. An artist who turned football into something beautiful. This is the story of Zinedine Zidane. Marseille, 1972. A boy is born to Algerian immigrant parents and is given the name Yazid. Growing up in one of Marseille's toughest neighborhoods, football quickly became his escape. Every day he spent hours playing with friends at Place de la Tartane. Before long, he stopped introducing himself as Yazid. Instead, he began using the name the football world would one day remember: Zinedine Zidane. At the age of 14, he caught the attention of French scouts during a French Football Federation trainings camp. 2 years later, AS Canas offered him his first professional contract. At just 16 years old, Zidane made his professional debut. By the age of 18, he had become a regular starter, and friends were beginning to notice his vision, flawless first touch, and effortless elegance made him stand out immediately. Even at Canas, he had already mastered the move that would later become one of football's most iconic skills, the Zidane turn. Led by their young playmaker, AS Canas achieved one of the greatest seasons in the club's history, qualifying for European football for the very first time. The following season brought Zidane his first taste of the UEFA Cup, but balancing European nights with domestic football proved too much for the small club. Canes struggled in the league and were eventually relegated. For Zidane, it was clear: if he wanted to become one of the best, he needed a bigger stage. Relegation with Canas could have slowed Zidane's rise. Instead, it became the beginning of something much bigger. Freshly promoted Bordeaux brought him in as part of a player exchange, and he fitted in immediately. The club finished fourth in the Ligue 1, securing an unlikely place in European football. By now, Zidane was becoming impossible to ignore. His vision, creativity, and elegance made him the heartbeat of Bordeaux's midfield. But with growing attention came growing frustration. Defenders quickly realized there was only one way to stop Zidane: kick him. And against Marseille, after taking an elbow from Marcel Desailly, Zidane finally snapped. He punched the French defender and received the first red card of his professional career. It was an early glimpse of the fiery temperament that would define parts of his career. A year later, Bordeaux won the Intertoto Cup and booked their place in the UEFA Cup. But Zidane's fury side surfaced once again. In the final, a reckless swing earned him a straight red card, forcing him to miss the opening matches of Bordeaux's European campaign. When he finally returned, he made up for the lost time. Bordeaux went on a remarkable run, eliminating AC Milan before reaching the UEFA Cup final. They fell short against Bayern Munich, but by then the result hardly mattered. Europe knew the name Zinedine Zidane. Zidane's performance at Bordeaux had earned him a place in the French national team. In August 1994, he made his debut against the Czech Republic. When he came on, France were trailing 2-0 with less than half an hour to play. It looked like a hopeless situation. Then everything changed. With 2 goals in just 27 minutes, Zidane rescued a draw and announced himself to an entire nation. France had found their new number 10. 2 years later, he was at the heart of the French team for Euro 1996. Playing every match, Zidane helped Le Blues reach the semi-finals. Ironically, it was the Czech Republic, the very team against whom he had made his unforgettable debut, that brought France's journey to an end. The trophies would have to wait. But one thing had become clear. France had found a player they could build their future around. Juventus saw something in Zidane. In the summer of 1996, the Italian giants paid around $3.5 million for the French playmaker. It was a gamble, but one that paid off almost immediately. Zidane adapted to Italian football, and within months he had already lifted the Intercontinental Cup against River Plate and the UEFA Super Cup against Paris Saint-Germain. His first season in Turin ended with his very first Serie A title, proving he belonged among Europe's elite. But this was only the beginning. For the first time in his career, Zidane would experience the UEFA Champions League. The biggest clubs, the biggest stadiums, the biggest nights in football. And he looked like he had always belonged there. During the 96-97 campaign, Zidane established himself as one of the finest midfielders in Europe. In the semi-finals against Ajax, he scored once and provided 2 assists, sending Juventus to the Champions League final. Everything was in place, but Borussia Dortmund had other plans. Juventus lost 3-1, leaving Zidane just one step away from the biggest prize in club football. Most players would have been broken. Zidane only became stronger. The following season, Juventus defended the Serie A title and once again reached the Champions League final. Along the way, Zidane produced one of the greatest performances of his career, registering a hat-trick of assists against Dynamo Kiev and sending Juventus back to Europe's biggest stage. For the second consecutive year, Juventus stood one match away from European glory, but history repeated itself. Real Madrid defeated Juventus 1-0 in Amsterdam, handing Zidane a second consecutive defeat in a Champions League final. 2 finals, 2 defeats. But football had something even bigger waiting for him. The 1998 FIFA World Cup. Hosted in France, the tournament carried the hopes of an entire nation, and all eyes were on their number 10. Zidane started brilliantly, controlling games with the elegance that had become his trademark. Then came disaster. Against Saudi Arabia, he lost his temper and was sent off after stamping on an opponent. Suspended for 2 matches. Many feared France's dream was over before it had truly begun. But France survived, and Zidane returned exactly when his country needed him most. Le Blues edged past Italy on penalties before defeating Croatia to reach the biggest match in French football history. On July 12th, 1998, France faced defending champions Brazil in the World Cup final. It was supposed to be Ronaldo's night. Instead, it became Zidane's. Two towering headers before halftime put France in complete control before Emmanuel Petit sealed a historic 3-0 victory. For the first time ever, France were world champions. In the space of 12 unforgettable months, Zidane had become the face of French football, the leader of the world's best nation and the greatest player on the planet. There was only one man who could win the Ballon d'Or: Zinedine Zidane. Back in Turin, expectations had never been higher. The newly crowned world champion was now expected to conquer Europe with Juventus. Instead, the following years became a story of frustration. The 1998 Supercoppa was lost. In Serie A, Juventus repeatedly came close, only to fall short when it mattered most. The magic that had defined Zidane's first 2 seasons in Italy slowly began to disappear. His temper didn't help either. Opponents knew exactly how to unsettle him, and too often Zidane reacted. The lowest point came during the 2000-2001 Champions League season. Against Hamburger, Zidane lashed out with a headbutt and received a straight red card. Juventus were eliminated in the group stage, bringing his European journey with the club to a disaster ending. It seemed as if Zidane had lost his spark, but only in club football, because whenever he pulled on the blue shirt of France, everything changed. At Euro 2000, France arrived as reigning world champions and favorites to win the tournament. Once again, Zidane was the heartbeat of the team. He scored, created, controlled matches, and delivered when it mattered most. France defeated Portugal in the semi-finals before overcoming Italy in a dramatic final. In the space of just 2 years, Zidane had led France to the World Cup and now the European Championship. He had conquered international football. There was only one challenge left: to conquer Europe at club level. In the summer of 2001, Real Madrid president Florentino Perez had a vision. He wanted to assemble the greatest team football had ever seen, the Galacticos. After signing Luis Figo a year earlier, Perez broke the world transfer record once again, paying 77.5 million to bring Zinedine Zidane to the Santiago Bernabeu. The message was clear: Real Madrid didn't sign Zidane to entertain. They signed him to win the Champions League. His first weeks in Spain already brought silverware, as Real Madrid defeated Real Zaragoza to lift the Spanish Super Cup. But Zidane has his eyes on a much bigger prize. His Champions League campaign became with a setback. Because of the suspension he received during his final months at Juventus, he was forced to watch Real's opening matches from the sidelines. Once he returned, everything clicked. Real Madrid swept past Bayern Munich before defeating rivals Barcelona in the semi-finals. For Zidane, it was another Champions League final. His third. This time, failure wasn't an option. On May 15, 2002, Real Madrid faced Bayern Leverkusen in Glasgow. With the score level at 1-1, Roberto Carlos floated the ball towards the edge of the penalty area. What followed became one of the most iconic moments in football history. Without letting the ball touch the ground, Zidane struck a perfect left-footed volley into the top corner, a goal that would define his career. Real Madrid were champions of Europe. The new season began exactly where the last one had ended. Real Madrid lifted the UEFA Super Cup and added the Intercontinental Cup later that year. But the biggest objective was reclaiming La Liga. Week after week, Zidane controlled matches with the same effortless elegance that had made him the best player in the world. At the end of the season, Real Madrid were crowned Spanish champions, giving Zidane his very first La Liga title. In Europe, fate had one more story to tell. In the semi-finals, Real Madrid faced Juventus, the club where Zidane had become a superstar. But Juventus advanced 4-3 on aggregate, ending Real's dream of defending the Champions League. Yet, the season had once again confirmed Zidane's brilliance. 3 more trophies, another league title. For the 3rd time in his career, Zinedine Zidane was named FIFA World Player of the Year. By 2003, Real Madrid had assembled one of the most star-studded teams the sport had ever seen. Figo, Beckham, Ronaldo, Raúl, Roberto Carlos, and at the heart of it all, Zidane. On paper, they looked unstoppable. On the pitch, it was a different story. Despite moments of pure brilliance, the balance slowly disappeared. Defensively vulnerable and often relying on individual magic. The Galacticos gradually fell apart. After lifting the Spanish Super Cup in 2003, Real Madrid failed to win another major trophy during Zidane's final 3 seasons at the club. But his individual brilliance never faded. When Zidane left the Santiago Bernabeu in 2006, he did so as a Real Madrid legend. But one final chapter remained: the French national team. The 2002 World Cup ended in heartbreak. A thigh injury just days before the tournament ruled Zidane out of France's opening matches. And without their talisman, the defending champions were eliminated in the group stage without scoring a single goal. 2 years later came another disappointment. At Euro 2004, tournament favorite France were stunned by Greece in the quarterfinals. For many, Zidane's international story seemed over. But football wasn't finished with him just yet. By 2006, many believed Zidane's best days were behind him. At 34 years old, he already announced that this would be the final tournament of his career. One last chance. France had struggled to qualify for the World Cup, but once the knockout stage began, something changed. Zidane came alive. Against Spain, he controlled the game from start to finish, before sealing France's victory with a late goal. Then came Brazil, the reigning world champions, the favorites. Yet it was Zidane who stole the show, producing one of the greatest midfield performances the World Cup has ever seen. He completely dominated the Brazilian stars and delivered the perfect assist for Thierry Henry's winning goal. Next came Portugal. One calm penalty, one more victory. France were back in the World Cup final. On July 9th, 2006, Zidane walked onto the football pitch for the very last time. And once again, he delivered. With extraordinary confidence, he chipped a Panenka penalty off the crossbar and over the line to give France the lead. But Marco Materazzi equalized soon after. The final remained locked at 1-1. Then, football witnessed one of its most unforgettable moments. After exchanging words with Materazzi, Zidane suddenly turned around and drove his head into the Italian defender's chest. A straight red card. The final walk of his career wasn't towards the World Cup trophy, it was towards the tunnel. France lost on penalties. It wasn't the ending anyone expected, yet somehow it became one of the most iconic endings football had ever seen. For many people, Zinedine Zidane will always be remembered for one moment. A headbutt, a red card, a walk past the World Cup trophy. But if that's all you remember, you never truly watched Zidane play. Because Zidane was never defined by goals or assists, he defined matches. With a single touch, he could slow a game down. With one turn, he could eliminate an entire midfield. With every pass, he made the impossible look effortless. And when his playing career came to an end, his story didn't. As a manager, he led Real Madrid to one of the greatest dynasties the game has ever seen, winning 3 consecutive Champions League titles. Even today, long after retirement, one touch is all it takes. The crowd still rises to its feet, not because they were expecting a goal, but because they're hoping to witness that first touch, that elegance, that effortless control. Because some players are remembered for what they achieved, others are remembered for how they made people feel. Zinedine Zidane did both.
Ce ballon, c'est un miracle. Oh l'artiste. En démonstration, Zidane.